almost 10 years ago, in this general vicinity, is the last time that I talked to my mom. It's my birth mother, mom. One of the biggest reasons why I didn't record for so many years is because I lost both of my moms in 2015. I lost my birth mother and I lost my stepmother, Barbara and Bonnie. Right back to back, October and November 2015. And something that I really took pride in, especially with Mom's Mixtape Volume 4 and Soon You Understand, is how honest I was able to be on the record. And so being able to speak my feelings about things that's going on in my life is something that's really important to me. I knew I couldn't record this new album without finally addressing the elephants in a room, which was their deaths. And I've known this for a long time. Like at one point I hit up Tim. I was like, yo, can you just send me some drums? Just give me some drums. I was just going right to the drums, and then maybe we can build around it. The drums were dope, but I never wrote anything. And again, when I started finally buying beats for the album, again, there were No Name Tim beats. And I'm listening to these, I'm like, man, you know what? This sounds like it could be the one to write about my mom's on. But then it turns out the one that I thought was the one was what turns out to be Count the Ways. So I'd already used the beat. So I was kind of stuck. Years ago, before he retired from beat making, before he became soccer referee, all around great guy, Chris Castle, aka 95. He has, still on his SoundCloud page, he has all these beats. And I asked him way back when, has anybody used these? He's like, nah, these are just things been sitting there. And I'm still sitting on at least 5 bangers of his that I haven't used. But there's this one beat called The Future, or called Future. I don't know if it's called The Future or Future. And as many times as I listened to that thing, finally within the last year or so, my bag's blown away. Hold on. I had to go get my bag. My bad. Finally, in the last year or so, I listened to that beat and I was like, this is it. So, something about the beat just said it needed to be called Hoodie. So on my little poster board, I just wrote the title Hoodie. And I knew that was the one that was going to be about my mom's. And it needed something else too. So when I was 16, I didn't have a care in the world. I mean, the year was 1999. Turned 16 in 1999. And parents gave me everything I needed. Anything I asked for, usually came through with that. Happy home life. I didn't see my birth mom. Didn't see Barbara. We weren't in touch at that time. But I had mom, Bonnie. And then I had dad. I had my family and friends. I had Shiv. And I just gotten into rap real heavy, so I was always buying the Source every month, reading every single page on there, writing my little raps. It was 99, so it was before we had a CD burner. But I was probably borrowing CDs from Stormy Funk and ripping them to cassette so I could listen to them in my Walkman. Slim Shady LP came out that year. But something just felt off. And what I didn't know was this was my first encounter with depression. So I suffer from chronic depression. It's not diagnosed, as I say on Hoodie, and I don't take meds for it because it comes and it goes. I was listening to a podcast not that long ago with Tim, and he said his default state is sad a little bit, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just that he's just trying to say he's not high energy all the time. It's more like his default setting is sad, and it kind of goes from there, and he's accepted that. Well, I don't feel like my default setting is sad. I feel like my default setting is kind of melancholy, if that's the right word. And with that being said, you know, it's just kind of, I just feel blah. And 1999 was the first time I ever felt blah. And so, I don't know what it was. There wasn't any specific triggers. There wasn't a girl. There wasn't anything bad in my family. I just felt like I wanted to die. Plain and simple. Felt like I just wanted to, because I didn't know how I was going to do it. So the only thing I could think of is to really have the balls to pick up a steak knife and I wanted to do it all the time. Like, there was 3 to 4 month period where I felt this way. So every time I'd look at the steak knives, man, what if I just put this in my chest? What if? And that's some scary stuff. So that's some scary stuff. It freaks me out now to think about that. It's like, why do I feel this way? And I even wrote a song called Contemplating Suicide. It was an R&B song. The hook was like, contemplating suicide. Except I was actually singing. It was dark. It was freaking dark, man. And I don't know what brought me out of it. But eventually I stopped thinking about the steak knives. You know. Just kind of got past it. 1999 eventually turned to 2000. And then 2001, graduate high school, go off to college in Kaiser, Potomac State. And then 19. And then I turned 20. Which would have been 20? 19. No. 19. I turned 19. 3 years later. And February hit. January hit. It's right. Normally, I'm ready for it now, but right after my birthday, because I get so up for my birthday. Right after my birthday. Just depression. And mind you, I had my friends. I had Wes, I had Ed, I had Matt. And Matt used to walk around Kaiser with me. There's a lot of times I would just walk around Kaiser by myself. And the only thing I would listen to, Get Rich or Die Trying or Philadelphia Freeway. And my little CD Walkman. I upgraded by then. And I was extremely depressed. I wasn't with Angel at the time. I had broken things off with her in like early December. We hadn't even dated at that point, but I was trying, and I was tired of trying, so I stopped trying. And I again just felt like I wanted to die. Now, it wasn't any kind of, let me drink this whole bottle of this, let me take these pills. Nothing like the steak knife mentality from high school. That steak knife mentality would have been some real, like, I would have, nothing like that. But I knew I was sad and depressed. And like every day, all I did was listen to Freeway and 50 Cent and Want to Be By Myself. Nothing brought me joy. You know what brought me out of it? This is 2003, mind you. So actually, yeah, I was 20. When I turned 20 and the dark thoughts are waiting. Sorry. 8 Mile came out in 2002. In the Student Union, I guess it came out on DVD, or I don't remember how they did it, but they were showing 8 Mile all weekend. So I went in there, depressed, not caring, melancholy, and I watched 8 Mile, and 8 Mile brought me out of it. seeing the story of B Rabbit unfold across that screen brought me back to center, where I had been really low for a long time. And then from there, I was fine again. And then a short time later, me and Angel started dating, and then I was fine. Everything was great. But depression is something that's always been with me. It came back again in 2004, right after my birthday. What was I listening to then constantly and being sad? The documentary by The Game. And I that was the first time I had heard of seasonal depression. So that's what I called it. When the weather was bad, I just thought I was depressed. It's not even seasonal depression though, because it's always underlying under the surface of depression. And it's something that I'm constantly coping with, and also something I have to be mindful of when dealing with Angel or with Aaliyah and things like that. Co-workers, friends, family. Take something that my mom said, Bonnie said, it's not their fault that I'm having a bad day. So I try to keep that in mind. So I was at a wedding in 2015. I was at Steve's wedding, and I was drunk. I've been drinking Crown all day. I was one of the groomsmen, and I was like, you know what? I haven't talked to my mom, Bonnie, in a couple years now, since the wedding, since Aaliyah was born, really. Since before the wedding, since before Aaliyah was born. Now is a great time for me to call the house, because I'm trashed. I'm going to call the house, be like, blah, 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 what's up? Like, not to be aggressive, but you know what? It's like, no fear. I'm just going to call the house. And I did. And I got my stepsister. And that's what she told me. My mom had been sick for a long time. Nobody told me. Because again, I wasn't in touch with the family like that. But nobody took the time to say, hey, your mom's sick. And mom even said, don't tell him I'm sick. That's not the reason I want him to come home. So one of my best friend's wedding day, I found out my mom was sick and dying and all these horrible things that happened to her. Now you would think that would have made me want to patch things up, right? No, I was still holding the resentment and the grudge that I had against her. And I didn't rush home. I was kind of in contact with Dad, mostly through email, and text messages and stuff like that. He had met Aaliyah. She had not met Aaliyah because of said grudge. And he had went to the wedding. She did not come to the wedding. I didn't invite her to the wedding because of said grudge. It's my stepmother that raised me, by the way, since I was young. Like, so ever since Dad got with her, she was always there for me. Yeah, that's me. So it was October, and I got a call from my stepsister again. She's like, hey, your dad's sick. He needs to go to the hospital. And I'm all tied up with Mom. I can't take him. And he's saying he's not going to go. I need you to come down here and go with him. And this is on a Sunday morning. So threw everything in my Dodge Stratus. Went down there. Surprised him. Man broke down in tears in my arms. Told me what was going on. I was like, well, we're going to go to the hospital. We're going to get you checked out. And that's what we did. Saw Mom for the first time in 2 years. Cordial, polite, very, very tense. Which I deserve. Take Dad to the hospital. And mind you, I just said that I got the call from my stepsister to come home and take Dad to the hospital. That same week, I had gotten a call, within 2 weeks, gotten a call from my mom when I lived back here on Arkwright. And Mom would usually call me pretty regularly just to say, hey. This is Barbara, by the way, my birth mother. When Dad got with Bonnie, I saw Mom the whole time I was in Winchester, which is until I was 9. When I turned 9, I moved to Cape and Bridge, West Virginia. And I still saw Mom when she came and got me on like every other weekend for almost the first year I was up in Cape and Bridge. But then things happened on her side and she stopped being able to come get me. And I don't know what discussions were had between Mom and Dad and Mom, but in my eyes, she couldn't get to me. I didn't take it personally. In 95, again, we kind of reconnected over the summer. I went down there a few times. Got to go down there for Apple Blossom. I think it was my first time going to Apple Blossom alone, by the way. That was pretty dope. I was 12. That was fun. And reconnected there. And then again, there was a gap. So like from like 95 until 97, I didn't see her again. Then in 97, I got to go see her again. So again, I'm down there hanging out with her, spending time with her, and then it just stops. And from 97 until 2003, I had no contact with her. And it wasn't that I didn't want to. I just assumed, being the overthinker and the Aquarius that I am, I just assumed she didn't want anything to do with me. That's what I thought. That's all I had to go off of. And so at that point, Bonnie, my stepmother, who I'd always called Mom anyway, became my only mom in my mind because my real mom didn't want me. That's what I thought. Nothing had been presented to me otherwise. There was nothing told to me that she didn't want me. Like nothing from Dad or from Bonnie said she doesn't want you. But that's just what I thought. So we actually reconnected in 2003. Thanks to Angel. And so from 2003 to 2015, she's in my life on a regular basis. And from 2003 until 2015, Bonnie stopped being in my life on a regular basis. Off and on. Always something. I wouldn't call home. I wouldn't come home. And there'd be times when things were good, and there's times when there was no communication. And at the end, there hadn't been any communication for 2 years. This is who I am. Barbara called me, Mom called me, and she's like, hey, I need help. She's been drinking my whole life. E&J and Coke my whole life. And I never thought anything of it. I mean, she enjoyed a buzz. I didn't think anything of it. I never thought that it was destructive. Now, mind you, she did have 2 strokes at one point in that was like 2005, I think she had her strokes, 2006, something like that. I remember Duke and North Carolina were playing the day that my stepfather, Paul, rest in peace, Paul, called me and was like, hey, your mom had a stroke, but she's doing okay. And then right after that, she had another stroke. So she had to get around with the cane and stuff like that. But for the most part, she was all right. She was pretty much functioning. She needed help at times, but she was okay. But she called me and she's like, Helen, I need your help. I need you to get me into a rehab place up there somewhere. I gotta stop drinking. And I was like, Mom, I mean, I can look around, see what they got. I mean, I don't think there's anything up here for really drinking like that. I didn't even know if there's anything up here for drugs, like for rehab. I mean, that's just not something that was in my knowledge base. So I didn't know. I had no clue. I'm like, I'll see what I can do. And she's just like, I feel like I'm dying. Something's wrong. Went to the doctor, and they said nothing was wrong. They didn't say it was a stroke, but I don't even want to get out of bed. She's like, I gotta stop drinking. It's the drinking. So I was like, all right, Mom. Well, I'll see what I can do. We talked for like half an hour or something. And I told Angel, and he was like, well, we need to start looking for the rehab stuff, and maybe we can find her someplace that can help her. And I talked to her a couple days later. That wasn't the last time that I talked to her, but a few days later I talked to her, and she was completely laid up in bed and miserable. And wasn't much of a conversation compared to when she asked me for help. So the weekend before I went down there to go get Dad, take him to the hospital, get the call that Mom is in the hospital, Barbara's in the hospital. So I got Bonnie Mom at home with cancer, laid up being taken care of by my stepsister. I got Dad who needs to go to the hospital because he's got something wrong, and I'm going to take him to the hospital. Then I got Mom Barbara who's laid up in the hospital with doctors can't even say anything because they don't think it's a stroke. They don't know what's going on. And she's weak and laying in bed and, you know, not herself. Take Dad to the hospital. Everything's cool. Get him seen. They set up an appointment with another doctor he's gonna follow up. Get him back home. Spend the night with Mom and my stepsister and Dad. Gotta come back to Morgantown on Monday. Before I do, I shoot down to the hospital because I wanted to see Mom. So I go in there, Mom Barbara. I go in there, and she's knocked out. So I go in and I kind of shake her a little bit. She ain't waking up. She's okay, but she ain't waking up. I'm like, all right, well, I'll just sit here with her. So I prayed my ass off. I prayed that she would be okay. That she would come out of this and we'd be able to get her the help she wanted, and she would be able to continue to live. Not even live. I just wanted her to be okay. I didn't think big picture. This is it. So I'm in there for like half an hour, 45 minutes, and I know I gotta get back on the road, get back up to Morgantown. Because I had to call off on Monday. I gotta get back and kind of get things situated for Monday night so I can go back to work on Tuesday. And I lean over, and I like held her hand and stuff when she was asleep, but she didn't really wake up. I leaned over and I kissed her on her forehead. Her eyes came open. And she immediately, like, tears. She had like a tube in her nose and she couldn't really talk. Her voice was very weak. And she knew what was going on though. And I was like, hey, I was here with you, but I gotta get back on the road. I gotta get home. I love you, and I'm sorry you weren't awake, but I tried to wake you up. And she's just touching my face and still crying, tears, eyes full of tears. So I think she knew. I think she knew. But as I say in the song, start to leave, and she goes like this because she wanted me to go to take her with me, and I couldn't just take her out of the hospital, take her to Morgantown. She used to come in the summers like every year and just hang out with us for a week. And Aaliyah, for just in July, she was there for her birthday, and then she got to meet Aaliyah the year before, the year she's born, and seen her a few times. But I couldn't take her with me, and then I walked out in tears, and I drove my happy self back up the road. And the first thing I said when I walked in the door to Angel was all three of them was going to die. I woke up on Friday. Normal day at work. It's like 4 o'clock. I had like an hour left at work. And I just talked to Paul in the morning, my stepdad. He's like, oh yeah, they got her in this rehab place. As in like moved her out of the hospital, like whatever you call those places where they, like, not hospice, but it's like they put you there when you don't need to be in the hospital anymore, but you still need some extra care. That's where she was at. Like, oh yeah, your mom just saw her this morning, everything's fine, she went to go do this, and she seems to be doing a little better. So I called at like 4 something just because I was trying to talk to her. I hadn't really got to talk to her. And like since I talked to her the week prior, hadn't got to really talk to her. And I called, and my stepbrother Travis picked up the phone. He said, "Hey, Kellen, I don't really know how to tell you this, but your mom's gone. Barb's gone. She died." And that's how I lost my birth mother. And before I left the house to go down to see Barbara in Winchester, I was saying goodbye to Mom, Bonnie. And she's like, "I hope your mom gets okay. Your mom gets better." And I was like, "You're my mom too. I love you. I'll see you soon." She didn't say anything. About a month later, November, Dad calls me. He's like, "Hey, your mom's not doing too good." He's doing much better. He got the medicine he needed and everything like that. He was doing much better. But your mom's not doing that good. And we're kind of seeing what's going to happen. And so every day I'm calling and checking, and she's the same. Nothing's changing. I don't hear anything from them, so I'm hoping maybe things got better, and they didn't. And then I woke up that Friday. Barbara died on a Friday, and Bonnie died on a Saturday. Not to bury the lead, but you obviously already know she's not here. Woke up on Friday morning with the sickest feeling, and I told Angel at like 6 o'clock in the morning, like, "I gotta go home. I gotta go home." She's like, "Okay. You gotta go home now?" I was like, "No, I think I can get through work today, but then I gotta go home." And got through work, hopped in the car, chain smoked Black and Milds all the way down there. And sure enough, can barely breathe. Everybody's there. Everybody's like, "So glad you're here. Like, we think this is it." And there was like 2 or 3 times we'd all be in the room expecting her to go, and she would just keep breathing. So I'm pretty sure it was after midnight that night. She's in bed, she's still struggling to breathe, and I crawl up next to her. And she had never met Aaliyah. And so I showed her the pictures I had of Aaliyah in my phone. It's like, "I love you. It's okay for you to go." I walked outside with Chad, my nephew. Everybody starts yelling. She was going too. So I knew the song was going to be called Hoodie because that's the kind of vibe the beat gave me. It just felt like a song that you just have a hoodie on for. Cold fall days, cold, clear winter days. Just got a hoodie on. And they both passed, and Barbara passed right before fall, and Mom did pass in fall. Pretty sure. No, October, November, but the first verse is how I knew I couldn't make the album until I was ready to write this song. Second verse is about my depression and my constant battle with it. And the last verse is about Barbara. Bonnie, depression, and Barbara. And that's how Hoodie came to be.